Okay, good morning, and welcome to, this will be our final class, on our study on biblical characters, or study of biblical characters, which is a part of studying background of Bible or narrative. So we are focusing on the issues of understanding a character. So to understand a character, it means to understand a person. And we go back to the very fundamental question: why are we studying a character in a narrative when we do a Bible study? The answer is, the reason for doing a Bible study for anyone, for us evangelical Christians, is to get the message or messages that are depicted or expressed or intended by the author of the story, the narrative, because we are studying narrative. So the whole reason is to get the message from God to us through the story. That's how it is. So a message from God to audience of the day, and then audience of today through the story. So you need to understand a story or narrative. It is important to know the background, and then to understand the character, to understand the episode, what the character does. So character is the main element in any narrative, especially in biblical narrative. So it is important to, there is means and skills and strategies in understanding the character. That's like a second part of this study. But we don't have enough time, and I don't think we're going to cover that second part. So the first part here, the understanding a person and how a person relates to others. That's a very fundamental in understanding a biblical character. Without having that understanding about a human being, male and female, young and old, there's quite a complexity that a human or a character, as he or she exists. So what we are doing is understanding the existence of a person. So then we start with that formula. So let's go back to this basic formula that I'm always using in my class. The reality is given. It is given. Many times you don't have the choice. You're born into a certain family. That's the reality that is given. You are born into a certain culture. You didn't have a saying in it. You had no choice. That's given. And the weather, the climate, the rich or poverty, that's all given. And we are to work with the given reality. Some say one's reality is better than others. Well, it depends on how you look at it. The human reality basically is the same. We are born into the sinful world, and we are given choices, and and the freedom and the right to make choices. Some countries, those choices are unlimited. Some countries, those choices are open. But that's rather relative. The absolute reality that is given to human being is the same. There's a good and evil. You are to make choices, and you are going to be responsible for those choices because you are created as a person, a human being. So that's the reality. The choices you make is so-called variable. It's variable. It depends on who you are. It is different from person A to person B. So what will you do with a given reality? Sometimes someone calls that's destiny. That's your how is it? 운명 in Korean, and it's just something that is given, and then you are to make a decision, or you are to respond to that. And those, we are looking at these both reality and the given when we study a character. What are the realities that person, he or she, is into? Because the reality does make a difference, even though the absolute reality is the same. There are those relative realities that are different from A to B to C to D. So each person has a different reality in that sense, relative. So giving the look at the relative reality, for example, Jesus, he was born into a family of King David, King David's line. But his father, Joseph, was a carpenter by profession. That means he is not rich, or rather, he is poor. He lived in the town of Galilee. So these are like a reality that is given, and how Jesus grew up in that situation with the brothers and sisters and Mother Mary, and then the Aunt Elizabeth, and then cousin John the Baptist. All these are given realities. And then we see how Jesus made his decisions. For example, when he was in the temple, when he was age 12, that's the factors. And then he was sitting with these scholars of Bible and was having this dialogue and discussion with them about the very religious and scriptural and spiritual issues. So that kind of describes who Jesus is. And by looking at them, we kind of perceive his character, his personality, and his uniqueness, and his trait, his thinking, thoughts, and so on. That's what we are doing. And thus, by making these responses and decisions against or toward or with the reality, he or she is making existence. That's how I perceive a person and understand a person. This is a very basic formula and it is useful. So as a spiritual leader, what we do as a spiritual teacher is to understand a person, and analyze them as much as you can. Another way of saying is knowing that person very detailed, and you are evaluating their spirituality. It includes their thoughts, their favors, their inclination, their intentions, and then trait, characters, and so on. It's the same thing, same principle applies to understanding of biblical narrative, or it's probably the other way around. By understanding and having deep study and understanding of biblical characters, you do understand a person with biblical perspective. You see as God sees them, because the Bible is full of these descriptions, detailed descriptions about how God related to them, how God knew them, how God understood them, and how God directed them and guided them, and so on. So the same way we like to be like how God sees them. The Christian, being a Christian, means that you are following the image of God and the likeness of God, or you're following the character of Jesus and the life of Jesus and the ministry of Jesus. That's who we are, and the thoughts and the thinkings and the ways he relate to people. That's something that we are obligated to, or what we are live to do. So that's where we are. Now, this is where we left off last time, stewarding chiasm. Stewardship is a basic worldview or paradigm or for a believer. It's a Christian paradigm. We see a person, myself, not others. I mean, forget about others. You're applying to yourself when we say steward or stewardship. It means we are sent into this world with certain task, responsibility to steward. It means that you are living, existing, your existence is meaningful when you are serving others. That's a very core and basic, key, fundamental attitude. And then perception of your own existence. So you live, and I live as a believer to serve others and serve God, of course. That's primary. I mean, but the stewardship is not applied to God. When we say serving God, that's worship. That's worship and lordship. Let me write that down. That's with God, lordship and worship is when you're looking at God, when you serve God. But when you serve others, it's a stewardship, it's a fellowship, it's companionship, and it's communion. So these are the things. So our life is meaningful, should be meaningful when you serve others. That's a stewardship. And there's this chiasm or a kind of paradox. Autonomy, it means you're self-motivated. You're self-motivated. No one's gonna force you or make you to serve. When that happens, when someone made you to serve and you're doing it, it doesn't count. So between God and us, we are to be willing to serve others. You have to be glad to serve others. You want to serve others. No one tells me, even if God does not tell me to do, I will serve. But I do it because God is happy to me see to serve, because that's what God wants me to do. That's how I've been built or created. So in that sense, you're doing it because God tells me to do. While we're saying, no one has to tell me, but I will do it anyway, because I love to do it, I like to do it, I want to do it. So that, sounds like a contradictory, but it is what it is, and that's how it should be. So you're serving others because it is what you want to do. At the same time, that is a responsibility. These two seemingly contradicting situation, or the theme is always present in these biblical characters. Sometimes you see the inclination toward autonomy. Sometimes the character is inclined to responsibility. The character goes up and down, and this side to that side. It fluctuates. It does change from time to time, situation to situation. As you mature and grow up, it could incline to autonomy. Otherwise, it could go to responsibility. But you need both of them. So that's kind of character who we are. The reason that I'm explaining this is because that's human complexity. When we're studying a character, it is not so simple. It is always this complex. Has two different sides that may seem to contradict one another. Okay? Talents. When you look at a biblical character, or same thing to yourself and then your fellow believers, or just a human being, the talent is something that is given. One of those. Talent from A person to B person is different. In the Bible, Jesus gives this parable. There's a person, a servant, who is given 1 talent. There's another servant who is given 5 talents. And then there's another servant C, who's given 10 talents. You don't ask why, because it is the master, the Lord, who's giving and who's making that decision? Oh, you have just 1 talent. You will have 5 talents, and you will have 10 talents. What happens is, in a human society today, in our cultures, people think having 10 talent is better than having 5 or 1. Having 5 is above the one who's having 1 talent. So they build a kind of hierarchy. So 5 is less than 10, 1 is less than 5. So he or she has 1 talent is much less than 10. And one who has having 10 is better than this person. Biblical mathematics is it's the same. There's no hierarchy. They're at the same rank. For the Lord, for God, either you're worth 1 talent, 5, 10, it is His decision, and He does not favor this guy against this person. So everyone is the same, whether you have 5 talent, 10 talent, 1 talent. Now, according to the parable of Jesus parable, what matters is what you do with this 10 talent, 5, and 1. You have to make or use of these talents. That's a key point in his parable. If you have 10 talents, and if you don't use it and put it in a safe or in a bank, even bank they give some interest today. So let's say that you buried it in your safe and didn't use it for 10 years, while this one having 1 talent made it 2 next year, and made it 4 next year, and made 8 next year, made 16 next year, and so on. So after like 10 years, it's going to be several hundred talents, while he kept it as 10 talents. So there's quite a big difference. Several hundred talents, he worked on it, while $10 guy left it as $10. He didn't even get the interest. That's what Jesus said. Then if that is the case, if you cannot work with it, then why didn't you give it to someone and get interest? Lend it to someone and get interest. And he did not. So that's how Jesus is perceiving, or how God is perceiving us regarding the talents. So what are the talents? Number 1, tent. In the Jewish culture, or in this nomadic culture, because they have to move from A to B place for the food, the grass for their animals, whether it's a cow, whether it's a lamb, the sheep, goat, horse. You have to move them around to feed them. You cannot just stay in one place, because while they are there, they're gonna eat all the grasses, and then they won't have much to eat anymore within several days. So that you have to move to the next place where there are plenty of grasses. So because of that kind of life, Norman, they use tent. They pitch tent as mobile house that can move. So you know what the tent is. To these days, you use tent for the camping. Same concept. It's mobility. But the tent, in their sense, is a house for us today. So it's your private domain. Private domain. So each one is given that reality called tent. Your tent is your family. Your tent is your family. Yeah, your family. And every single one of us is responsible for your own family, including yourself. So first tent to consider as talent is you. I am my talent. Then I have my parents, my brothers and sisters, and then wife and children. So that is considered tent, a household. This is the concept, the word that Bible used in the concept of tent. So what is your tent? Then you are given dominion. In Korean it says 지경. It's little broader than, larger than your tent. It can be your arm. So dominion is a little bigger. For us today, it's going to be your work, your job, and your friend, your community. Could be a small community, could be big. Sometimes could be your tribe. In case of Abraham, his dominion was his tribe, and a nation. In case of Moses, it was whole nation. In case of Esther, who became a queen of Babylon. In her case, when the crisis came to the Jewish diaspora that are living in the kingdom of Babylon, they were in verge of being killed. Everyone's going to be massacred, and Esther was responsible for her people. So dominion may vary in size from very small to very large. Your own family or farm to your bigger than family, your tribe or your clan. Clan is a little smaller than tribe. So but bigger than family, clan, and tribe. So your clan or your tribe may be your dominion. So it depends on the reality that is given. And that is going to be your talent as well. So talent is something that is useful but it's also your responsibility. So that's another chiasm or the paradox of the talents. So we are given the talent, sometimes it is used or it is good for advantage. It gives you a certain advantage. It gives tribe, clan, the job, community, nation. It gives you benefit. It protects you. It helps you to identify who you are. You can say, I am proud to be a Korean, or you can say, I'm proud to be a Chinese. Why do you say that? Because a nation is giving you certain pride and certain self-esteem. So that's a positive, but at the same time, it becomes your responsibility. You are obligated to your nation, your tribe, your community, and your work. Work, it gives you the money to survive. It helps your existence. At the same time, work becomes a responsibility because unless you do a certain work, you're not going to be paid. So it works both ways. In biblical characters, you should be able to see these two sides, not just one side of just benefit. No, you also need to look at the responsibility. So you're looking at both sides. And inheritance is not something that you earn, but that is something that is given to you for free. If you your father has a big building and he's gonna inherit that to you, and you didn't work for it, you didn't buy it, but it is given to you because your father is rich. That's kind of inheritance. But at the same time, when you inherit your father's building, you become a owner. You need to pay the tax. You need to manage the building, and then you need to take care of these residents or the people who are renting it, and you become responsible for your tenants. So these tenants, when you inherit the whole building, it becomes your responsibility. Some is able to work better than father with that inheritance, but someone may fail to manage or handle that inheritance. So that happens in the Bible, biblical story. What is the inheritance that is given to you by God or by your family, your father and mother? So think about it, and it is one of your talents. So talents, sometimes it means gift, but whether it's gifts or usable tools or skills, doesn't matter. It becomes your benefit as well as your burden or responsibility. Genesis 2:18, it says, Then the Lord God said, It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. This is a very important verse, again, in the first 3 books of Bible. Genesis chapter 1, 2, and 3. It is worth to do very in-depth study because it's going to give you the guidelines and the perspectives and the framework in understanding the rest of the Bible. And now this is one of those key verse in chapter 1, 2, and 3 of Genesis. And it says, it is not good. Some people understand that to be bad, but Bible does not say bad. So there's a good, better, and best. Okay? So in here, it includes all those good, better, best. Not better, not best, not good. But it doesn't say bad. It is bad. That doesn't say that. What the reason I'm saying that is, being a single is not bad, but it is not good. So for God, we want to be better than single. But He doesn't say being a single and remaining single for your whole life is bad. It doesn't say that. In Paul's case, it says, and it would be better to be not to be married. That's what he said. I think it's his very personal opinion rather than God's revelation. God's revelation here says, it is not good that the man should be alone or a woman should be alone. I'll make him or her a helper fit for him and her. The reason I changed the gender, because when God says this, a man or him is a representative noun, or as a general noun, referring to a human being. So it's not particularly gender specific here. Some read, or in the fundamental Christianity, in the very solid, not solid, some extreme conservative. They'll try to read it as a gender specific. But for me, I think it's referring to a person, even though God is saying that to Adam when he was alone, when he did not have Eve, as a general pronoun for a human generation. Because in the Bible, the word Adam in Hebrew, it both refers to a male gender, man, or to just a human being. So here it says we need a companion, someone to help one another, because that is who God is. God is one and He is three in person. Three person in one and one person in three. So that's called companionship, fellowship, or personing, or relationship. So the relationship is the key to godly character, or the image of God. 2 Corinthians 4:16, to help you to understand the Genesis. Therefore we do not lose heart, but though our outer man is decaying, yet our inner man is being renewed day by day. The reason I post this verse, or they're looking at this verse, is because the Bible sees a man in this. You have outer person and inner person. Outer man an inner man. So a person is being looked at the biblical perspective as an inner and outer person. So when Paul says that to Corinthians, it is proper for us to look at a person, a character in outer man and inner man. Which is more important? Inner man is true person, usually. So our inner man should renew day by day. What it is saying is we are to mature and grow continually. We should not stop to grow and mature. Colossians, set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. So you have inner person and outer person. So this might be one of the metrics that you can draw or picture. So here Corinthians says is outer person and inner person. So that side it will be inner person, that side outer person. And then here Colossians says there is something that is above and something that is earthly. So your inner person has above and the earthly. Your outer person may also have above and earthly. So that's kind of a grid or paradigm or framework to look at a person, a character. So when you read a character in the Bible, whether it's Moses, whether it's Gideon, or whether it's Isaiah, you're looking at that person with this framework. And same thing applies to you, yourself, and to other believers. And you're looking at what is his inner person or her inner person is like, which is not visible. Outer person that is visible, expressive, the physical, the height, the weight, these are outer person, the word and the actions, behavior, these are the outer person. But inside may differ from You may smile on your outer person, but may have a dagger, knife inside. So that's who we are, very cunning and devious and tricky and deceiving. That's who we are. So a good person is a transparent person, transparent, see-through, just like glass. But you don't have that kind of person, except Jesus. Jesus was very transparent. He didn't hide anything. Unless it is something that he intentionally hide from those people who he does not want them to know. But otherwise, it was just transparent. You can look through it. What you see outside is the same with inside. And in English word, we call that in Western society, especially in America, this is a very important word. For us Asians, the integrity is somewhat culturally irrelevant, because I can speak for Korean culture, and I think it's pretty much the same in Chinese culture. I don't know about today, but I think it is still there. What you are showing outside doesn't necessarily has to be equal to or transparent to your inner self. You are taught socially, culturally, not to show your emotion or your true self. Whether it's negative or positive, you learn to suppress or hide intentionally who you are. They don't do that anymore, I don't think, for MZ generation or new younger generation today. But still, they do learn this cultural. So for us, integrity means being able to control yourself and have that, kind of form of humility, but it's not like a biblical humility, but we have our cultural, definition of humility, which is not quite exactly integrity from this American viewpoint. They misunderstand that to be not having integrity. When Asian people are kind of suppressing himself or herself and not showing true exact emotion or intention or self, we do learn to hide that. That's our culture. That's how we should understand our integrity. But in Western culture, in American culture, the integrity is different. It has a very different definition. And the biblical integrity is to be transparent. To be transparent. And in America, if we continue to live here, we need to learn how they or how Americans perceive, or how Western culture perceive integrity, because this is the key. One first primary thing they look for and you. For us Asians, we often misunderstood not having this integrity. But it's not. That's what we learn from our culture. You're not lying it. You're not intentionally lying it or deceiving someone, but it is how we learn to behave, at least in our time, our age. So that's kind of thing the integrity means and should be understood. And the Bible teaches us this integrity. And this Western concept of integrity comes from the biblical Christian culture. Okay? So let's take a short break and we'll come back. Okay, let's continue. So, Bible sees inner person, outer person, and then mind that's of above and earthly. James, book of James, written by James wrote it, says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires." Okay, listen and speak. Speaking the word. A person it tells about basic mechanism of human relationship. And you listen and you speak. Look at yourself. Are you a listener or are you a speaker? You can be your listener or you rather speak than listen, you're a speaker. Peter, in the Bible, for example, he was more of a speaker than a listener. He was quick to act. Who do you think is a better person? A speaker or listener? Again, you can be either a listener or a speaker. There's only good listener and good speaker, bad listener and bad speaker. Not a listener is better than speaker, or speaker person is better than a listener person. So being a speaker and being a listener is neutral. But there's a good speaker and bad speaker, good listener and bad listener. What is a bad listener? If you listen to someone speaks, and you're making judgment after judgment, and critical after critical with the wrong kind of paradigm or framework, then you're a bad listener. If you don't pay attention to someone who's speaking, and then you'll be a bad listener. There are some of things that you don't need to listen, and you pay attention to those things, then you will be a bad listener. See these categories that I'm giving you. It is not necessarily paying attention to some to a speaker. It doesn't make you a doesn't make you a good listener. So the thing is, you need to be able to discern what you're going to listen and what you're not going to listen, or what you're going to pay attention to or what you're not going to pay attention to. To be able to do so, you should have your inner person that giving yourself to the things up above. You're not necessarily need to listen to the things of that is earthly, like be rich and money is the best thing. Do whatever use means to get money, or just try to become the number one. And those who have less than you, whether it's money or talent or whatever possession, they are not better than you. These are the things that are earthly things. And we want to listen to something that is above rather than earthly. Speaker, it's not, you're saying too much or less. That isn't really the issue. What you're saying, the content, that's the key. And then James gives one example about your emotion. Emotion is one of the key things that the humans express. And there are, angry. There's a righteous anger and unrighteous anger. You're angry because of God or God-given, emotion. If there's a so-called godly anger, because God does get angry. If God gets angry, the anger itself is not a bad thing. The thing is, what kind of anger is that for? Is that for yourself, or is for justice? Is it for injustice? So people usually get angry because if the things doesn't get the way he or she wants it to be, that's very selfish anger. That's a bad emotion. But God gets angry against unrighteousness and evil. Unrighteousness and evil. And that's godly anger. So we are titled to have that kind of anger. Anger against unrighteousness, anger against evil, that we should But the way to express that anger is again another matter. Even with those godly and righteous anger, you are to express it accordingly, meaning it depends on. So violence never justifies your righteous anger or godly anger. So violence in the Bible, unless God commands to use that physical means to overcome or to conquer, which is not. I don't read anything in New Testament, only in Old Testament. God orders His people to go out and kill. And that's only in the Old Testament. So in the New Testament age that we are living in, means violence is never justified. So the anger is a kind of emotion. What I'm trying to say is human beings are emotional beings. But there is right kind of emotion and wrong kind of emotion. And you need to discern. How do we do it? By looking at the Bible. And God does teach us which is the right emotion and which is the negative or bad emotion. Grief and sorrow is a proper emotion. It itself is neutral. But there is a bad grief and good grief. There's a good sorrow and bad sorrow, according to the Bible. So as you read these biblical stories and try to learn and focus on these characters, you should be able to discern these things. And your objective of studying the biblical character is to be able to discern whether this is a proper, necessary, and good emotion or not. Okay. See, the measurement is whether it produces a righteousness that God desires. So the key element or key measurement or parameter or barometer for judging whether your emotion is godly or not, good or bad, is this. Does that produce the righteousness that God desires? How do we know that? Only way to know it is not just asking, waiting for some mysterious message. No, that's not how it works. Sometimes it does. Sometimes, very rarely. But normal, usual, and common way of knowing what the righteousness that God desires is to study Bible continually and steadily every day and in depth. By doing it, you'll know what. No one has to tell you, but you're going to find it yourself because Bible is there. It doesn't take your smart 160 IQ. No, you don't need that. This average person can understand by reading and studying Bible. That's how it is written. The only issue is that you're not studying the Bible continually, daily. And if you don't do that, you're not going to reach that level of maturity or the spirituality and sensitivity of the scripture. The only way to do it is continue to study, read, and study. Galatians 3:17 says, "And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. So here again, it gives a standard, very standard, the measurement of barometer or category, criteria in making judgment or evaluation about human word or deed. So again, word or deed is what we call outer person. That's something that is visible. You can listen, you can see with your eyes, and you can experience, you can describe and make a note of, document the word and deed, which usually reflects your inner person. See, here's a one good measurement or principle. Try to remember this. If someone shows bad or unacceptable, evil word and deed, usually, the most of the time, it comes from bad intention, bad inner person, usually. But there's something called mistake, or just out of control. It's still, it reflects in a person, but there's one inner person that we are trying to locate and try to see or focus is inner motive, the desire, the intention. True intention sometimes is hidden or be misunderstood or not visible. But usually, bad word, bad deed. Evil word and evil deed comes out of evil desire, evil intention, most of the time. Now, look at the good deed and good word. Good deed and good word. Here's the thing. When you look at someone doing good word or good deed, that's what you're seeing. But it can be hidden. What you're not seeing, the inner true motive and intention can be deceiving, which is that he or she doesn't have integrity. Meaning, even though he or she is showing good behavior and saying good words in a very gentle and kind manner in the church, or in a church, he or she is doing it for his or her own sake. He or she wants to look good or praised by others. So that's called hypocrisy. A lot of us Christians, so-called Christians in the church, does not have this true intention and desire or true relationship with God. But they are so educated and trained and accustomed, behavior-wise, they can speak the words and the deeds, do the deeds that is proper to the culture. So there's a kind of religious culture in church. And if you are in church for a year or two, then you will quickly learn which is the proper and which is improper things to say or do. And you become cultured. But that does not mean that you are a true believer or a true Christian, or your heart, the inner person, is a believer. So this is where the danger is. For us, pastors and the teachers, the leaders in a church or any Christian community, should be able to discern. I mean, that's your responsibility. You're not trying to make a judgment. You're not judging a person, but you are discerning a person. There's a big difference. Because if you're discerning a person, then your desire, that the inner intention is to be a pastor or spiritual leader. That's how God sees that person, and you should be able to see that person in the way that God sees that person. That's what our job is as a pastor. But judgment is making the statement, this person does this and not have the true, genuine intention, thus he or she is bad. When you say that, you mean that he or she is a sinner, he or she is a hypocrite. That judgment is up to him. You're discerning whether it is true intention or not. If you see the intention is not true, and he or she is just acting and saying, acting good, your job is to be able to help that person, he or she, to realize that he or she is being a hypocrite, whether it's intentional or not. Some people do it intentionally to deceive. If that is the case, then you need to just tell them you're trying to deceive others, and that is not biblical. That is evil, and you need to change yourself. You need to address that. It may hurt him or her. They may not like you because of that, but you do what God has mandated you to do. That's what Jesus did. He did not so much care about whether they're gonna like him or not. I mean, he could be popular, more popular than he was if he acted differently, but he did not give himself to their intention or being popular. He just told them what God wants to tell them. And he was hated for that, and he was killed for that, right? Because of that reason. So, when you see the word or deeds of an outer person, our job is to look into that inner world. And the Bible, when they depict a character or describe a character, many times they give their inner intention, which is different from the good deed or words they are saying. And the Bible warns against that kind of character. If they do it with an evil intention, then they are worth of the judgment. Not my judgment, but judgment from God. So our job is to discern that. And that discerning comes from the study of character, and then again we apply that discerning back to the study of other characters in the Bible. So that's what the Bible, the character study is about. Okay. 1 Peter 4:8. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. This verse is picked up, chosen, to show that there is something called relationship, or interpersonal relationship. That is another key aspect that we are looking at. And the Bible sees it very important to see how they behave with one another, each other. And in this case, it's love. But there's love and hate. There's more than love and hate, right? When you're relating to someone. One thing that you look at is opposite of love. That's how modern human beings, whether it's non-believer or believer, even believers, Christians, immediately when they meet a new person, or even their very older friends, they keep saying to himself or herself this way: is he or she, this person beneficiary to me? What benefits he or she can give to me? That's the kind of instant, very unconscious intention or motive, a desire that pops up every time that you make that relationship with others. And in a biblical sense, that is not interpersonal relationship. It is very selfish and egoistic and evil relationship. Evil is not something like you kill someone, you hate someone. That is included as evil, but you don't need to go that far. The evil in the Bible, again, I continue to say this: when you're being selfish, you're counting others for the benefits they can give to you, and you're making relationship, if they are to give you some benefits, you're gonna be kind, and you're gonna be like friendly to that person. And if that person is not gonna benefit you, and you're gonna distance that person, that's evil. That's evil. So evil in biblical definition is being selfish and self-centered while you're relating to others. And if you are relating that manner, that attitude to God, unfortunately, many believers today in the church, they are trying to make that relationship with God with that framework, whether God is going to benefit you or not. It's very selfish, self-centered. As you can become religious, but you're not going to be spiritual. You're going to be religious, but you're not going to be Christian. So to be Christian and spiritual, you are going to think and live, exist according to Bible, biblical. And Bible says you're to love each other. Love is giving yourself, giving of yourself, not giving of yourself and giving you for others. Okay? That's what the love is. Your intention is to or for that person, not yourself. It may return some benefits to you as a result of being loving to others. But you don't even count on that reward. For if you're truly loving that person, you don't think about the reward or return or anything of that nature. You're giving it, and you're done, and that's it, period. Because you have given, and you gave up yourself to give, just like Jesus did for us. That is love. That is a biblical love. And the other one, that is being good. That's what the good son. And the evil is focusing on yourself. Colossians 3:19. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. It's the same thing. So the Bible depicts us, human being, as a imperfect being. The thing is, we were not created as imperfect being. Indeed, we've been created well, this may be new to some of you. And usually in a church, we're taught, or some pastors teach, that when Adam and Eve were created before the incident of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, they say they were created as a perfect being. I don't agree with that. They were created as a neutral being, neither good or evil. So that means the creation was not completed yet. Creation of a human being as a person will be created once they make that choice. It's not just a moral choice, it is a spiritual decision, spiritual choice. And we're given the choice of either being good or being evil, either being selfish or self-centered, or being unselfish, God-centered. And now, that is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Knowledge means knowing. So knowing good and evil. So that fruit itself is not, if you eat it, the fruit contains the evil, so you become evil. That's not how it works. The fruit is there. Either it's going to be good or evil. It says, do not eat of that fruit. Once you eat it, and you will certainly, for sure, 100%, you will die. Or to the exact translation, you will begin the process of dying. and will face death. That's how the verse, the tense is actually. So the dying process will begin for sure, meaning that you're going to die at the end. So for me, before the fruit of good and evil, we're neutral being. So not completed, not perfect yet, imperfect. And imperfection, another sense, not only is incomplete, but it is on the side of evil and the failure and bad. So here is a paradigm. Look at the first line. God, angel, man. Then God, man, angel. See, that's the line above is where we are today. But initially and eventually, we're going to end up above angel. So there is a rank. Just like here is a rank. This is not a good rank, but that rank is God-given, God-ordered, God-made rank. So that's where we are now because of our sin, but we are going to be restored to that second line rank, right after God, above angels. See, angels doesn't have the way to reproduce, and they're a personal being just like us. They do make a moral, spiritual choices, and the Satan is the one who made that choice not to obey or follow or under God, and he wanted to be God himself. And that's because angel is a personal being, they are able to make it that decision and choice between good and evil, and whether to follow and believe God or against God. Same thing for us. And they made the Satan, and then his followers made their choices against God. Now, moral, spiritual, mental, and physical. Mortal. Mortal means death. We are dying. We're going to die. Mortal being, mortal being, dying being, because we have sinned. And then we are limited, and that makes us imperfect. Knowledge, space, and time and ability. We don't know about the future. We don't know about even about my own future tomorrow, or even an hour from today. This moment. Our knowledge is limited. Our knowledge is limited. We don't know everything about medicine. Even if you're a trained medical doctor, you don't have all the knowledge that is necessary for health and medicine. We don't. And even if I am a pastor, I don't know everything about Bible or everything about God. It's limited. So knowledge-wise, we are limited. In the space, we can be in one place at one time. So that's limited space-wise. And time-wise, we cannot go back or to go ahead to the future or go back to the past. We cannot do that. We are bound by the time. And ability, we're not able to do everything and anything, which God is. And even with the best and most ability, we are still limited as a human being. So, we are not imperfect, we are incomplete. That's who we are. And when we read a character in the Bible, they are not superhuman, they are not superheroes, they are just the same human as we are. Except when they're given the ability beyond our human capacity, it is given by God, momentarily, temporarily, to a certain situation, to a certain person. You cannot generalize. This is the one big mistake many Christians make. The miracles or supernatural events or an episode in the Bible is limited to that particular reality, to the particular person in a particular age. So there is a certain context, then history, and then a person who is particular, very specific to that, it limits. And you cannot generalize that into our general life. For example, Jonah was saved by a big fish. It might be a whale or something else. You cannot make that a general rule, or you cannot generalize and say, if I fall off a cruise ship, let's say, and God will send a big fish or a whale to save me, because God did that for Jonah. Or you try to walk on the water because Jesus did, and even Peter tried and was successful just given moment in time, and God will make me to walk on the waters, and you try it, and you drown yourself. You cannot generalize that. You cannot play with the snake with the venom and try to survive that. 99.99% you're gonna fail. You cannot generalize the case of Paul to your life. That's a very danger of generalization in the Bible. So when you read some of these supernatural incidents, you'll say, oh, it is given by God. Only allowed by God. Allowed by God. For that particular reality, to that particular person, at that particular time. So, it's not something general. Same thing goes for the healing of blind, healing of sick, and healing of dead. You know, from time to time, we read, at least I read in a newspaper that in Korea, some Christian, so-called Christian, they tried ritual. They find a dead corpse, either his father or mother, and they kept that dead body in their house, believing that it will be resurrected. That's why it's nonsense. Bible does not teach that. That resurrection is only applied to Jesus Christ. And in history, in human history, that will never happen, won't happen again until Jesus comes back, and then we are going to be resurrected at that time and moment. But until then, Only resurrection that we're going to see is Jesus being resurrected. Resuscitation. Resuscitation happens rarely in human history. It's not like every once in a while out of 10,000 dead, there's going to be one being resuscitated. That's not the case. Millions and millions will die, and there will be rarely one case who's going to be resuscitated. And even that resuscitation is God's choice. And so you cannot generalize that. So try to avoid that generalization. And if you read a character that who is a supernatural and superhuman in the Bible, that's only because God wanted him or her to have that power and ability, and then an episode and that given time. You cannot generalize. We are imperfect because we are evil. And we are sinful. Evil again is being selfish and self-centered. Being selfish and self-centered. Then plus lies and hates and all these negative things which result as sin. And being sinful, there is sin and sins. Let me just briefly define sin. Sin is the state of being. While sins is the result of that state of being. What state of being? Is a state of being that you are not having that personal relationship with God. Simply, you don't know God and God does not know you. That knowing is like like a marriage. When you're married to a man and a husband, you know each other. That is a different level of knowing. It includes that sexual relationship and mental and psychological unity and spiritual unity. So physical, spiritual, and mental, psychological, everything is united. That kind of knowing. So you do not know God as a whole person. You may have knowledge of God, but that does not validate you knowing God. You to know God, you have to have something in between, because you have human generation, whole humanity is broken because of our sin. The evil in us. So evil is the cause of the sin. Sin is the state of being, not having the relationship or acknowledging God as the creator and the Lord and all these. Sins is a result of sin. So to restore, reconcile the relationship, you cannot do it. God has to have that desire, wanting to restore the broken relationship. And it's God who needs to act. Unless he does act, we cannot recover, because we don't have any ability. So that's what the Bible is talking about, sin. It comes out of evil. Evil is making that decision to be selfish and self-centered. I don't need God. Where's God? I don't see him. Where's God? If there's God, why the world is so broken and why the world is so evil? It's not because of God, it's because of ourselves, human generation. So there's that answer. Either you're going to believe that answer or you reject it. Unrighteousness. There's a right and wrong. Working and broken. And unrighteousness is something that is not working, something that is not right. And God and man, you could either have a good relationship or a bad relationship. Wrong relationship. Wrong relationship is broken, or you hate God, and God cannot accept someone who hates Him. See? So we are looking for and gearing toward having the righteous relationship with God. So when we look at the character in the Bible, we are looking at this spirituality, presence of evil, presence of sin and sins, and either righteous or unrighteous. You are trying to determine or read and discern that person with these categories. As a result of being evil and unrighteousness, we are having all this immorality, discrimination, and competitiveness, and so on. So the Bible shows both sides, our good side and bad side. And by reading these, we not only get the lessons is actually secondary, we are trying to get the message from God. And the message is this: because we have failed. God did not create us to be like this. And God wants to restore, give us second chance, and He does. And either you're going to accept that second chance or you're going to reject it. Everyone. And that second chance is named as Christ Jesus. So all the character studies comes down to this: Jesus Christ. And the stories in the Bible, the Old Testament, it is all there for Jesus Christ. And in the New Testament, it is all there for us to understand. So I think the time's up, and thank you for listening and thank you for coming. And this will conclude our study on the character study. And I do have a second part of this study that yet to be taught. And if there's an opportunity, then we'll have the second part in another quarter in the future. So until then, thank you for listening and watching and coming to this class. And I hope that you have learned something about study of Bible. So I'll see you, and bye.